Hi everyone, this is Nicole Steele, the owner and creator and designer behind the Joyful Stamper. You can find me at thejoyfulstamper.com, and I'm also an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, but really, most of all, I just love to stamp, and I love to stamp with other people. So today I have a vintage Christmas card using Toile Christmas. I hope I'm saying that right. I love the vintage flair of the paper that goes with this too. I think it's called Toile Tidings Designer Series paper, but this card has lots of lovely layers, and it's based on a sketch from Splicoaststampers. If you go to my blog, you will find the sketch, and you will also find the written step-by-step instructions to make this card. So let's get started. And I'm just going to apologize right now if you guys hear my dog barking, because it's a beautiful sunny day, lots of neighbors out, and she's looking out our giant bay window. So I apologize. But in any case, this is a garden green piece of cardstock, 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored and folded in the middle at 4 1/4. And again, I've got all the measurements on my blog, and there's a written PDF there that you can print and save. So we've got lots of little pieces for this kit. What we are going to do first, let's do some stamping here. So I'm going to take the giant cardinal, and I'll tell you right now, there are dies that go with the Toile Christmas stamp set. However, I don't have them. I don't necessarily buy every die set that coordinates with a stamp set because I don't mind fussy cutting. So I'm stamping this cardinal in Memento Tuxedo Black ink on a piece of real red cardstock. All right. And I found the Memento Tuxedo Black takes a little bit of time to dry, a few extra seconds. So I'm going to set this bird aside for now, the cardinal. I'm going to set the cardinal aside for now. Then I'm going to stamp and emboss my sentiment. So I have a piece of basic black cardstock, and I'm going to use the Christmas Wishes set and a Versamark ink pad. And let's ink this up. Actually, first, if you happen to have Stampin' Up's Retired Embossing Buddy or something similar to it, go ahead and use it to take away the static of your cardstock, and this will just keep the embossing powder from sticking where it shouldn't or where you don't want it to stick. And so I'm going to stamp Christmas Wishes in Versamark ink. You probably can't see it because it is a clear ink. Lots of fun techniques to be used with Versamark, but we are going to use it for heat embossing today. Heat embossing never, ever, ever gets old for me. Ever. And I buy several jars of Stampin' Emboss powder at a time, and I dump them all into a plastic container and label it and put a little spoon in it. And I find it so much easier to use my embossing powder that way. Now I'm going to turn on my heat gun, and I want it to get warm. I'm going to let it warm up for a few seconds because when I aim it at my paper, I want the powder to melt almost immediately rather than the paper getting warped and bent. And you can see the powder melt as it gets hot from the heat tool. And I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to be cutting that out too. Next, I am going to stamp on some garden green layers. So I took the scroll stamp. There's 2 little scroll stamps in the Toile Christmas set, and I took the larger one, and I'm going to use a soft suede ink pad. And I'm going to stamp it as a frame around both of these pieces of garden green. I did it on a whim, and it looked absolutely beautiful. I loved the vintage flair of it. The only thing is, most of it got covered up in my finished card. So you can just barely see it poking out. So what I want to do is make another card where this scroll work is the star of the show because I just love the way that looks. All right, now we're going to stamp it on this one too. don't know why, but when I film videos, I feel like I have to stamp in a hurry. And the truth is, I want it to be relaxing. I don't want to be in a rush. So I'm not really sure why I'm stamping so fast, but I don't know. Let's just sit back and relax, shall we? Okay. I love that. I love it, love it, love it. This isn't going to need anything else done to it, so I'm going to set those pieces aside for now. And I have a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and it looks like I had ink on my fingers, but we're going to go ahead and use it anyways. And I'm going to use this branch stamp that's in the set, and I'm going to pull out cherry cobbler marker, and what other color did I use? Garden green and crumb cake. These are Stampin' Right markers, and I'm using the brush tips of all of them. They actually have two tips, a fine point tip and a brush tip. I'm going to use the brush tip to color on my stamp, the red rubber. Now I'm coloring the branches of this image in crumb cake. This is one of my very, very favorite things to do with Stampin' Right markers. You would not want to do this with alcohol ink markers such as Stampin' Blends because, well, it could stain your stamps. It would stain your stamps and might ruin them. But this ink will wash right off because it's water-based. So these are Stampin' Right markers. Now I'm going to take a garden green marker and I'm going to color the leaves in with it. I especially love this technique for coloring fall leaves into stamps of, tree stamps. I did a marker thumping technique where I showed how to do that. It's here. I've uploaded it to my YouTube channel, so you should be able to find it if you want to learn how to do that. It was a quick video. It was just the technique I showed. Okay, so once we have all of those colored, what you do, because this ink, as you colored it, some of the sections tended to dry. So what we're going to do is pick up the stamp and you just gently blow on it or huff on it, breathe on it, like that. And then I am going to stamp it on my paper here. Why can't I find, I thought this paper was big enough. There we go. It took me a minute to figure that out. Okay. And then you get that nice multi-colored look to the image. Super fun. Okay, now I'll show you how to, what I did with this vellum. These are square vellum doilies from Stampin' Up. And I am going to smush it with a Versamark pad and then pour some gold embossing powder over it to heat this up. So you can use them as is, you can cut them up, but we're going to emboss it today. And you're going to want a piece of scratch paper for this so you don't make a mess of your work surface here. So all the supplies for the projects that for the card I'm making today can be found in my store, shopwithnicole.stampinup.net. You can go there. I have a special code that I have each month, and when you use it on orders over $50, you can earn Joyful Stamper reward points that are good towards a $50 shopping spree with me. All right, and again, this is gold embossing powder. I bought jars of it and I poured it in here. And what I'm going to do is just shake it to cover the bottom of this, and I'm going to just dip this right into the powder there. And then I'll pick it up and tap off the excess. And then we're going to heat this. I'm not really concerned about getting 100% perfect coverage on this. And so it doesn't blow away, I'm going to anchor it with a pair of paper snips here. You can see how fast the powder melts whenever your heat tool has been properly warmed up and is hot and ready to go. Okay. That to me is absolutely stunning, and you can use silver embossing powder, copper, whatever you have, but you can change the look of that. It doesn't have to stay vellum. Make it what you want. That's what this is all about, right? Okay, so let's cut these pieces out. And again, like I said, there are dies for this, but you know what? A die cut machine is really nice to have. I won't lie. But it's an investment. The machine is, the dies are, the embossing folders, it is an investment, and not everybody wants to make that investment, and that's fine. So, but you can still get the same kind of look. Just invest $10 in a pair of good scissors like these paper snips, and you're good to go. Because you can just fussy cut everything out. I'm a big fan of fussy cutting. I like the repetitiveness of it. You don't have to think really hard while you're doing it. It's kind of meditative. You probably wouldn't want to do this though if you were making multiples of the same Christmas card, which I usually don't. I usually only make, I don't know, 2 or 3 at the most of the same kind of card, and then I move on to something else. I don't know, the way I make my Christmas cards, I actually don't set out with a magic number in my head of how many I need. I just keep making them and making them because I have so much fun stamping and using all my Christmas things and papers and inks and all that, that I just keep going. And usually I end up with, I don't know, 75, 80 cards made, and I actually don't mail out that many. So what I do is I donate what I don't mail to an assisted living center that's here near us, and they use them in their gift shop. They use them as bingo prizes for the residents. So whenever the residents play bingo and they win, they get coupons and they take them to the gift shop and they can redeem them for things in the gift shop, and my cards are part of that. So it's kind of nice. It's a win-win. I get to keep stamping and I don't have to worry about making too many cards or more cards than I send, and they're thrilled to get them. Really thrilled. So there's, again, there are dies for both of those things and for this cardinal, but I'm happy fussy cutting. And you don't have to be precise. Okay, there's no room for perfection when we're making cards here. We're just having fun. I like to make tags for Christmas too. I get those little bits and pieces left over of the designer series paper, which is Stampin' Up's pattern paper, and I don't want to throw them out. They're pretty. So what I do is I take my cardstock scraps, my ribbon scraps, and the pattern paper scraps, and I sit down and I just make a stack of tags, and I add them to all the Christmas gifts that I hand out, or to tie them to the handles of gift bags, and it's pretty fun. You can get pretty creative with the tag, let me tell you. So we've got our pieces cut out. Now it's time to make this card vintage. Let's give it some vintage flair. Whoops, make sure I'm still in the camera here. I bumped my work surface. Okay, so we are gonna do some sponging and distressing here with soft suede ink and a Stampin' sponge. Now my Stampin' sponges are cut down into fourths, so you get 3 large sponges to a package. Way too much for me to hold when I'm doing things like this. So I cut them each into 4 pieces, sometimes even 8. And I'm telling you, one package of Stampin' sponges can last you for years, because you can wash these too and rinse the ink out of them. And I'm just going to do this to the designer series paper layers. And again, this paper is called Toile Tidings, and it's got the same pattern on both sides, just in 2 different colors. One side is in real red and the other side is in garden green. And you'll find this in the 2020 holiday mini catalog from Stampin' Up. If you need a catalog, just shoot me an email. Nicole at thejoyfulstamper.com, and I will get a catalog package out to you, because I don't just send a catalog. I like to put goodies in it because I sit there and I think, you know what, it's pretty exciting to get one of those publications, right? And I want to make it fun to get. So I always think about, what kind of package would I like to get? What kind of catalog, what would I like to see in a catalog package? And that's what I include. Now, if you're a customer of mine, you'll get it at no charge. You're automatically on my catalog mailing list. You don't have to do anything. But everybody else, you're free to request one from me. Just shoot me an email and I'm happy to send them out. All right, sponge this up. This paper just, it goes so well with these sponging and distressing techniques. So old-timey, and I absolutely love it. Okay, we're not done with the distressing because I'm taking, this is a pair of old scissors. I don't use the paper snips that I use for cutting stuff because I don't want to dull those blades. So I take an old pair of scissors and I'm running the blades along the edges of the paper here. You want to be careful you don't go too hard because you don't want to tear the paper, unless of course that is the look you're going for. I have accidentally torn my paper before and made the card anyways, and it's been fine. But I'm just going for a light distressing here. Okay, so we got that layer done. Now there's a lot of layers on this card, but again, in the PDF that you can download from my blog post for this particular project, I have all those measurements written out for you so you don't have to guess. I know sometimes I'll see a card I want to make and I have to guess at the measurements that they used, and sometimes that can be a little frustrating, especially when you're short on time for creating. So I don't want you to have to guess. And that's why I include the measurements. All right, this is the last piece that we're going to distress before we assemble everything. Oops, see, I did rip my paper. I usually can't get by with doing that much distressing without ripping at least something. Okay, so this largest piece is going to get glued to my card base. And I'm going to use liquid glue because there's already so many layers on this. And I don't need to be popping anything up with Stampin' Dimensionals. All right, I always check to make sure my card is opening the proper way because too many times I have glued things onto my card base and realized I did it backwards. You know what? I went ahead and mailed those cards anyways. Okay, now I'm not going to glue all these layers to my card base just yet because we're going to wrap a ribbon around these layers. So we're going to glue these together, and then when we're all done with it, then we'll glue the finished piece to the card base. So, and this may horrify some of you, but I'm going to glue them slightly askew, just like this. If you want your layers nice and matted and straight, that's fine. Go ahead and do that because these measurements are such that you can do that. You can mat them straight, but I don't want to do that. I kind of want it to look like I just tossed it onto here and this is the way they fell. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is just take my finger now and just kind of rough up some of those garden green edges. You know, this card should look like something you found in an antique shop. That's the look I was going for with this. I like trying different styles of things when I'm stamping. Just experiment and play around, see what I like. Okay, and now we are going to use some ribbon. So, okay, here's the deal. I had a little deviation here. I used gold metallic edged ribbon. So this is very vanilla ribbon with some gold metallic on the edges of it. That was the last of it. That was the last of what was in my spool. And let me tell you how satisfying it is to use something up in your craft stash. Don't you think? So anyways, I had silver metallic edge ribbon. And yes, this is Whisper White and it's got silver, and I know this isn't gold, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to use it anyways. And we're going to tie this around the bottom of this card. Just like this. So yeah, it's okay to mix your metallics. I'm simply just using what I have on hand. Whoop, I think I didn't give myself quite enough ribbon here. Yeah, I'm going to redo this and tie it a little bit bigger because I want a nice big chubby bow for this card to go with that cardinal that's going to be front and center of this. I'm so excited for Christmas this year. So are my daughters. I don't know why we're especially looking forward to it, but we just are. We've got movies planned out and cookies we're going to bake, and they wanted me to decorate now. So I'm filming this November 5th, but I had to put my foot down for that. I'm like, no, I'm not bringing out the Christmas decorations yet. Although I know people that have their trees up. They are in the Christmas spirit. I just don't want to be tired of it by the time Christmas comes. You know what I'm saying? And maybe they aren't, but I know myself I would be. So that's why I don't have it up yet. But I do have fall decorations up. Okay, so I am going to put, let me check my original card. Did I use, yes, I did use dimensionals to glue this up. Sometimes I make cards too far in advance and then I forget how I made them. So then I have to go back and look. Oops. Okay, and then we're gonna just put that on the card. Oh my goodness, this is looking pretty. If I do say so myself. Okay, so now this is how this is all gonna go. This is gonna get tucked there. That's gonna get put there. We're gonna put the cardinal there, and then this is gonna go over top of it, right? Okay, so this is going on first. I'm gonna dab some liquid glue onto here. And because this was originally vellum, which typically you can see through it, but we embossed it with gold embossing powder. So this, I'm not worried about the adhesive showing through. So I'm just putting little dabs. Really don't need much for this. And I am gluing this at an angle right there. And I'm going to hold it down for a few seconds so it sticks. Okay. Then I'm going to add this branch. And you know what? I want to cut a little bit more out of this branch. This white, this vanilla section right there. I'm going to take that out. I want as much of this pretty paper showing as possible. Okay. And now we'll put just a little bit of liquid glue. I don't want it squeezing out the sides here. Okay. And I'm going to stick that branch right there. And if parts of this branch are popping up off the card, that's okay. It just really adds to that organic, natural look of it. These are going to get dimensionals on them. I think, let me again check my bird. Okay, the bird actually is not getting dimensionals. He's getting glued down flat, like this. Okay. But my sentiment is definitely getting them. I pretty much add adhesive and envelopes to every single order I place with Stampin' Up! Just because I don't want to run out. Can you imagine running out of adhesive when you're in the middle of a project? The horror. Okay, so this card is actually not done. No, we're not done. We're not done. All right, I'm going to bring in, okay, these True Confessions, Toile Tidings glitter enamel dots. Yes, they are from last year. Yes, they're retired, but I had some left. And what you can use in place, if you don't have these, are Wonderful Gems. They're in the current holiday mini catalog, and they come in real red. So you have that option. And there's also gold glitter enamel dots in the annual catalog. that will work really well too. So there are options. There's always options, people. Always options. All right. And now you can see that it might be a little bit dark to write on the inside of this. So I cut a piece of 5 1/4 by 4 inch of Whisper White, and I'm going to stamp the inside of my card. So I'm going to bring that frame to the inside here. So I'm grabbing that scroll stamp again, and I apologize if my head gets in the camera, but I want to get a little close to the edge here. And I'm not worrying about being precise. I'm okay with it being a little bit crooked. This is, did I say this was soft suede? It's soft suede ink. Okay. And now I'm going to pull out my Real Red ink. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment on the inside of the card. May this season be filled with beautiful moments and happy memories for you and those you hold most dear. And I'm going to stamp it right in the center. And now that is going to get glued to the inside of our card. Do you ever think about stamping your envelopes to match your card? It makes it more fun for the person that you're sending it to. I know I get handmade cards in the mail when the person has thought to stamp the envelope. It makes me so excited. But here's what I recommend. Don't stamp your envelope and then put it in a pile of water. The ink will bleed. So I'm going to stamp another one. Oh, where's my stamp set here? Okay. I'm going to stamp May Your Days Be Merry and Bright. And I am going to use Real Red ink for that. On the front of this card.